Good morning, interwebs. We are currently camping. So, obviously daily vlog is not happening today. Well, it's not being released today. It's still happening, and you'll get to see it this weekend. But, instead, Steve has filmed a garden tour for you, which I know has been long awaited. Just a warning, it just looks like a lot of green stuff in many of the places, and that's because our garden is just overflowing with green. So you may have to look a bit, but he does explain bit by bit what you're looking at. Hope you enjoy!
Interwebs, I'm going to take you on the long-awaited garden tour. I'm hoping not too windy so that you'll be able to hear me, and hopefully the sun will make it so that you can see everything as I show it to you. We will start right here, and this is where the garden started. You can see the basil. We like to dry our basil. We have 8 cherry tomato plants along there. Over here is my raspberry patch, which is not really producing because it got overwhelmed by grasshoppers. I sprayed a little while ago, and so I'm hoping maybe I'll see some buds. These rows are kind of the weeds are catching up with it, but they are carrots, getting ready for getting canned this fall. And then this is where I planted our fall tomatoes. We like to make green tomato salsa. And we didn't have enough green tomatoes at the end of last year, and so we thought we will put in some specific tomatoes just for growing green tomatoes. You can see a couple of them are starting to show up on there. This is where the fall lettuce has been planted, is in this whole section. A lot of it hasn't even come up yet. But you can see this is where some of our volunteer cilantro has started to pop up. I just let our spring greens go to seed, and then they start to drop and create all kinds of cilantro in there. You can see here's some lettuce. It's got some cilantro growing right in with it, and all that is purely off of last spring's volunteers. That transitions us over to where the tomatoes are, and they go down all this row. It was asked how big is our garden based on hose lengths and the amount of tomatoes that are in this stretch. I believe it's about 125 feet by 125 feet, which would make it about a 12,000 square foot garden. When we first started, it was just this section right here to about where those tall weeds are. That was the first year that we did. There was a whole bunch of trees over here that I cut down. Once I got a chainsaw, there was also multiple trees over in that direction that I've been able to cut down and get more sun onto the garden and more space as we've continually expanded. On the other side of the tomatoes, through all these weeds, because I'm constantly losing the battle to the weeds, we have some pepper plants. They're just starting to set their first batch of peppers, and a couple of them were starting to ripen up a bit. We kind of have an odd relationship with peppers. I usually don't put too much effort into them because when we get too many, we don't usually do too much with them. But you can see the stumps that are around from all the stuff I cut down over time. And then these are my giant sunflowers. They are mostly just to look pretty. But some of these are well over 7 feet tall, so we enjoy those. We started growing a garden for many reasons. The first is mostly that I needed something to do. Also, once we moved out here, we had all this space, and it seemed like a waste of space to not use it to produce something for ourselves. These are all the tomato plants. They're getting so long they're starting to spill out past their tomato cages. And third of all, we found out that once we moved out to Kansas that the produce here is not very good. Obviously they have to drive it here from other places, and most of what we can get is not quite the color that the produce should be. And so the ability to grow our own food that's nice and fresh was much more appealing to us. These are the green beans. Only they're not green, they are purple. We grow purple beans. We tried them for fun one year and they worked so well, we decided those were what we wanted. So we grow more of those. Past these trellis, we have some corn. I think I planted it too close together this year because I've never had great success with it. And so I was probably overzealous in how many I put down. A bunch of zinnias growing here because they're just fun and pretty. And then I put those marigolds there. I told the kids we planted them here to make it look pretty next to where our uncle comes and puts his trailer. And then I think he's only been once since the marigolds started growing. So my joke was a wasted effort. I really just put them there because it seemed like a cool place to have them. We had pretty poor success with green beans the last couple years because of bugs, and so I was very diligent at the beginning of the season with keeping these sprayed so that they would start growing. And so we just got our first harvest late in the year, which is pretty late to have them, but better late than never, and they're really going to town now. There's still see, there's a ton of flowers, like this little branch right here has a bunch. And little shoots coming off, so we should be well supplied with green beans here for the next little while. And then over here we have black-eyed peas, which we let grow onto we let dry while they're on the vine, or at least most of the way, and then save them as a dry bean. Then over here I have all my melons growing. This section is mostly cantaloupe over here. There's a few cucumbers growing, on this side. There's one of those right there, almost ready to harvest. There's another one, and then here's a cucumber that's starting. I think I said a cucumber starting, but I mean a cantaloupe. It's a cantaloupe starting. You can see the cucumbers have gone as far back as over there. I just kind of let everything grow over each other. Someday when I start winning more battles with bugs and weeds, I'll probably have a more planned out version of the garden that looks a little nicer. There's a bigger cantaloupe growing there. Let's see if we can get a shot of it here. No is the answer. There's a cantaloupe that's about ready to be harvested. You can see pretty much all the green is off it. I think I'll actually just go ahead and pick it because I'm right here. Might as well. Then over here we have a bunch of honeydews growing. We tried them this year. You can see there's, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 just sitting here. A lot of them are getting pretty close to ready to harvest. And we grew them and we found they really didn't have as much flavor as the musk melons, which I keep calling cantaloupes incorrectly. So we'll probably back off of the the honeydews in the future. They just didn't have as much flavor. These are the painted serpent cucumber melons that we've been growing. I got those as free seeds from the sample seed shop, and she always includes some free seeds with your order, and I just planted them because I had them and we found that we really like them. So it'll be another thing that I have gotten from her free seeds that I will continue to grow in the future. When Kendra and I were first married, and back when I was in college and we were always renting places and I was younger and more immature, I frequently would spend all my extra time playing video games, and she'd always make fun of me that my hobby did not have a product. So whenever I have a particularly good harvest, I always like to walk into the house and pound it down on the counter and go, boom, product. So these are an assortment of volunteer tomatoes. So I've told the kids that they are allowed to come and pick these whenever they want and eat them directly. They really enjoyed doing that. I had the 5-year-old was sitting right in the middle of that patch the other day and just picking all around him, 360-degree view of tomatoes, and just happy as a clam. That is, I believe, some balsam, which I've enjoyed growing. They have fun little seed pods that explode, and those are volunteers off of last year. See some more of those volunteer tomatoes growing in there. They're starting to ripen up. This whole area of weeds and marigolds was where the potatoes grew this year. I tried recropping them, but I haven't seen any of the recropped potatoes growing, so unfortunately that may have been a failed experiment, but it left lots of room for a ton of marigolds, which the kids quite enjoy. So that's mostly what the garden looks like this year. I'm continually trying to catch up with the weeds, of course. And each year we've gotten a little bigger. This strip on this side got added in the past 3 years maybe. No, that's not correct. This was the second year that I gardened. I added this side. But then we've expanded further into that area. Things have just gotten cleaner and cleaner. I've burned burn piles and cut down trees and slowly get more and more space. And I've been getting more and more hay bales too to help cover up the weeds and mulch and aerate the soil, and so hopefully that will provide better success in the future.